They didn't seem to work.
Today sees the public release of the Naval Strike DLC pack for Battlefield 4, which came out for premium members at the back end of March. This video is here just to give you a quick tour of what's included and some of my thoughts on the pack as a whole. Off the back of the fairly straightforward map pack in China Rising and the overhauled maps from Battlefield 3 in Second Assault, Naval Strike brings with it 4 particularly watery maps, the usual smattering of new weapons and assignments, but also contains a major new game mode with Carrier Assault. Now, Carrier Assault is an homage of sorts to Battlefield 2142's Titan mode, and it pits 2 teams against each other in a struggle to destroy the enemy's aircraft carrier first. There's 2 fairly distinct phases to a battle, with everyone rushing to capture an array of control points across the map as soon as the battle starts. It's effectively conquest at this point, but instead of taking points from a respawn pool, each control point will periodically fire off a missile which deals damage to one of the 2 carriers. Control more points, and you'll be dealing more damage per minute. In the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you can then see this gradually ticking down, and as half of the carrier's health is taken off, a set of explosions start to go off on that carrier, and several entrances break open, starting the second phase of the battle. Attackers now have to get onto the carrier via a couple of entrances at sea level, arriving on a chopper or using the paradrop spawn point above the carrier. Once on board, there's a single rush-style MCOM station to destroy, which will then open up the engine room and give a second MCOM station to destroy, which will then win you the round. But you need to be careful while you're attacking, because even though you might be able to board the enemy carrier and attack, you have to be mindful of your defense. It's quite likely that your carrier will also be open for assault, so you might prefer to defend your MCOM stations from boarders, but even then, you're not really fighting on 2 fronts, but actually on 3, because all of those control points in the middle of the map are still firing off missiles and dealing damage. In other words, there are 2 ways to win a round: either destroy the enemy carrier's MCOM stations, or deal the most damage via holding the control points. Now, this game mode will only play out on the 4 new maps in this DLC pack. Lost Island has a crashed airliner on it as an homage to the eponymous TV show. Nansha Strike has got that Megalodon, which I'm sure you've all seen about. Wavebreaker has an internal submarine base, and Operation Mortar features a ruined castle and some old-style cannons to fire off. They're all nice and varied layouts, and each has its own particular quirks, but overall the gameplay is going to be quite familiar to the 4 maps. You've got attack boats and helicopters, which are going to be ever-present threats. It's also quite difficult to tell them apart visually, because they're all island-based combat, and they're all set in the South China Sea. I think it's actually a bit of a shame that some of the maps from the main game and previous DLC haven't had Carrier Assault support patched in. Paracel Storm, for example, is a particularly obvious map to get a patch, but you've also got large bodies of water on the likes of Hainan Resort, and even Gulf of Oman or Siege of Shanghai, and these could have all potentially housed a pair of carriers for you to fight over. Hopefully we'll see more maps added to this mode in the future, even if it's just with the upcoming 2 DLC packs. Now personally, I was playing on PC, so I cannot comment on the likes of rubber banding on consoles, as I didn't experience those kinds of issues. But I have seen some comments and complaints from the original Titan mode, which do make a bit of sense to me. The first point which a lot of people have made is that rounds take around about 15 minutes to complete. It makes them nice and bite-sized and fast-paced, but it takes a lot less time than they used to in Battlefield 2142, and they can feel quite quick overall. There's also criticism about the Carrier Assault itself being a bit too easy these days. First off, you've just got the 2 MCOM stations to destroy, where you had a lot more to try and get access to in the original, and this can all be done and dusted very quickly, especially now that you can spawn directly above the carrier and parachute in, which removes some of the challenge of actually getting onto the carrier. Finally, it's now missing the escape phase. As soon as you've dealt the final damage or you've blown up that MCOM station, the game just ends, the victory is decided. There's no having to exfiltrate from the carrier as explosions are going off all around you. All in all, I've actually really enjoyed this DLC with the new maps and the new game mode. The problem is that I can kind of see the Puppet Master's strings being pulled. I'm noticing that it's just conquest control points, that there's just copied and pasted Rush MCOM stations, and also that both the Chinese and American sides seem to have the exact same carrier design. It's a DLC with a lot of good additions to the game, and definitely worth checking out if you're a Battlefield fan. But just a few changes here and there could have really pushed it on and made it an absolutely essential purchase for anyone with the game. I hope you've enjoyed this video and my quick little summary of the Naval Strike DLC, and I hope to see you next time.
Hostile sniper. I say again, hostile sniper, north of your location. I've got eyes on an enemy boat located north of your position. I'll be following objective Delta. We've set the charge on objective Alpha.